Hello, and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate, divorce support for dads, where we help dads create a healthy and less traumatic divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval, and I'm your host. I created this podcast in the Divorced Advocate community as a result of my own high conflict divorce, and because you as a dad deserve all the resources necessary to thrive through this challenging time. I encourage you to check out our website at thedivorcedadvocate.com, where there are resources that correspond to this episode, as well as free access to our membership community, where you will find live meetings, free workshops and courses, private discussion groups, and more. And now on to this week's episode. Hi, fellas. This is Jude, and I hope that you had a very Merry Christmas. I am still taking a little break, a much needed little break from recording new episodes, but I wanted to provide you with some good content this week. So I am sharing with you the recording of an episode that I recorded with our friend Anthony Thompson of Divorced Dads of America. I appeared on his podcast about a month ago, and we had a really great wide-ranging conversation. So I wanted to share that with you. Also encourage you to check out Anthony's work at Divorced Dads of America. You can find him on Instagram and the podcast and all of his other stuff there. He is a tremendous ally for divorced dads. So please check that out. And I also want to wish you a very happy new year coming up here. I hope to connect further with y'all this next year in 2026. I will be back with some new episodes coming up here next week. So have a very happy new year and enjoy this episode.
Welcome aboard, everybody. This is Divorced Dads of America, The Rebuild. I'm your host, Anthony Thompson, founder of Divorced Dads of America. And today is going to be a good one. We've got the founder of the Divorced Advocate. We've got Jude. He's here. We're going to have an interview. I'm going to expose as much of some of these secrets that most guys aren't aware of. And I want to get straight into it. I've got some laser shots that I'm going to fire at him right from the go. So buckle up, get your ears ready, get ready for maybe at the end some questions that you'll need to know and that you can take on your own for takeaway to dig further. Because I always believe that each and every episode should do exactly those things. So I'm going to introduce Jude. We're going to fly into this thing, and then you're going to get your minds blown in a few minutes. So here's a little bit about Jude so you know where he's coming from. I first and foremost would say, man, like he's been there a lot longer. Going through a divorce is one of the hardest challenges a man can face, but Jude doesn't have to do it alone. Here, let me start this again with Jude's intro, because I wrote two. I actually wrote three, but I want to give the right one because this is what Jude does. Going through a divorce is one of the hardest challenges a man can face, but you don't have to do it alone. Guest today, Divorced Advocate, a platform built to guide fathers through the chaos of custody, co-parenting, and rebuilding their lives. He's a champion for dads who want to build a bright new future for themselves and their kids. Please welcome my guy today, Jude Sandoval. And let me say this in addition, because I always like to acknowledge guests and what's going on with him. Jude's a rock star in this space. He's been doing it for a long time. His podcast is the top podcast in this space that you need to get on and immediately. In addition, we're going to talk through some of the stuff that he has that's going to absolutely give you more tools in the toolkit so that you don't have to wander around like a zombie going into 2026. So first question, Jude, that I want to fire right at you just from the go, and then we'll dig into your story a little bit more. But what's a question that you wish divorced dads ask you, but they don't?
Oh, that's a great question. First, Anthony, I want to thank you for hosting me on the show here. I'm usually on the other end with, like you mentioned, with the podcast. So it's nice to just show up and look pretty and get blasted with some good questions like that. So what is what is the number one question? I think the number one question I wish dads would ask is, what is life going to look like post-divorce?
Yeah.
Because when you're in the middle of the chaos, when you're going through all of it and the emotions are running high, you might be feeling sad or angry or upset. The kids are challenging, and you're dealing with having to learn how to maybe be a single dad when you've had a partner before. Your ex might be just giving you a hassle, making false allegations, alienating the kids. It's so hard to have any semblance of an idea of what post-divorce looks like. And I can tell you here now, after 12 and a half years, post-divorce, no matter how challenging it is going through it or after, can be absolutely amazing, particularly your relationship with your kiddos and what that looks like. So I guess maybe looking, and this is one of the things we do as coaches, and what I do with dads coaching, whether it's in a group setting or individually, is we create that vision for them post-divorce. So I kind of work them through that. I wish they'd show up and wanting to look and see that, but it's really hard to see the forest for the trees when you're going through that, because, man, let me tell you, I know all about that.
Yeah, well, let's jump in there, Jude, because you told me a little bit about your story. And let's give the audience some context about the blender. I always talk to dads that it's a blender, man. When you're in it, it's a blizzard. And like you said, seeing through the storm, what was it like? Give us some of those details from you. What was that like for you and your story?
Yeah, the blender is a great way. I call it chaos. I call it a storm. Like, all of those things are accurate descriptions of going through a divorce, particularly if you're in a high conflict divorce or you're dealing with somebody that might have some significant mental emotional issues, maybe an addiction, et cetera. And so I was the guy that was never going to get divorced. My parents were divorced, each of them. My dad was divorced twice. My grandparents on both sides were divorced. So this was going to end right with me and my family. And you know what? Just tell God what you want, or tell God you got a plan, and then you know what's going to happen. It's going to be something that's completely what He wants and not what you want. And so it just got to such a bad place in my divorce, with some addictions and infidelity and other things, that it got to the point where I had to file for divorce. And it was literally at the time, Anthony, for me, it was the worst possible thing that I could ever be doing for myself, for my family. I had so much shame around the life that I thought was going to be my daughter's life post-divorce. I had created the perfect life, right? Yeah. I followed the script. I had gotten married, had the business, had the house, had the 2 cars, on the boards in the community and Rotary Club and all of that. And so that was all just crumbling apart. And that then just turned into more than 12 and a half years. It's kind of settled down over the past year and a half, 2 years, but really over a decade of just dealing with divorce and family law court and attorneys and all this, and emotions, right? Like your own stuff, which we talked about before, and dealing and learning with all of that stuff. And so my goal now has been to create a community for dads to come in wherever you're at in the process, whatever your financial situation looks like, to find some support. We've got free to paid opportunities and stuff for guys to get the information that they need going through this, because, man, it's brutal. And it's the reason why it's voted like one of the top 2 or 3 most stressful things somebody can ever experience is because it is, and it's massively difficult.
Totally it is. And Jude, when you said something there, you're walking through it, high conflict, like you said before. Some of the things that I would love to dig into a little bit is, at what moment, when you going through everything, it's high conflict, you're probably spending money out the wazoo, like all our dads are. At what point then did you decide, like, hey, I need help? Where did that come into play for you?
Yeah. So, Anthony, I was the guy that didn't ask for help. Yeah. So I went through all this. I didn't.
Right there with you.
Yeah. I was gonna suck it up. That traditional masculine idea of men don't cry. You're gonna suck it up. You're gonna grind through it, et cetera. That was totally me. So I literally went through this and if it wasn't every single mistake, it was a high percentage of the mistakes that you can make going through this process. And so I don't think it really struck me until years later that I decided that I needed to get some help, get some therapy, get some coaching, get into a 12-step program for codependency, like start really reaching out. And then shortly after that, when I saw the impact that had just on me, I remember Anthony stepping into the first Codependent Anonymous meeting, and I literally was sitting there. I didn't say a word.
Yeah.
I was sitting there listening to all these people talking, going, are they reading my mind?
Yeah.
This is all the stuff that's going through my head. I must not be crazy. And it's really the first time that I felt like I wasn't crazy, because if you do self-isolate, which I know you know, then you start wondering, well, hey, am I the only one going through this? If I don't have a community around me that's sharing, like the community that you've built and the community that I've built, that you're talking to the guys and you're sharing and you're getting the support that you need, you literally think that you're crazy going through this stuff, because it is so stressful. And stress does crazy stuff to your mind.
Crazy, dude. It again, put your mind in a blender. So you're in this, I love hearing this story, Jude, because you're in the place and I'm in the place. But I think so many times guys think that you and I, just sort of had a magic unicorn that we rode off into a rainbow, and it just it didn't hit us or anything. So when you say that kind of stuff, what I love to kind of dig into a little bit more is you finally get into this process of getting help. What were some of your enemies, or we could call them enemies, we could call them distractions, we can call them addictions? What are some of those addictions that you walk through, and what were some of the thoughts that allowed you to continue in some of those things, those patterns?
Yeah. So I joke that I'm not addicted to anything, but I've basically tried everything.
Yeah, same.
I can just go from one to the other. It's like, oh, that was interesting.
Yeah,
well, let's try
fun.
this. Well, that's interesting. Well, I'm done with this. I don't get addicted to anything. I just keep trying all the new stuff, which is just, absolutely crazy. Like I have respect for people who just pick one. It's like you pick one and you just stuck with it. Like I didn't pick anything, right?
Yeah.
Good for you. You went all out and you became an addict in this, right? Good for you. So, but what was I going to say? Oh, getting help is so freaking important to get the help. And we have all of these things that are distracting us all of the time. And depending on what your mindset is, what your childhood experiences are, how you grew up, the messages that were wired into you from childhood to early adult life, we all go through this in a different manner. So we all go through this divorce in a different manner. Yours was different than mine, and different. Every single guy that's listening to us talk today, it's all different. Mm-hmm. However, there are some very, very common things that happen, the stress and how we handle stress, how we show up, things that we can control, things that we can't control, like all the stuff that you talk about on this podcast and in your group and that I do and so many people do. So it's just like anything that we try for the first time. Hopefully you haven't gone through divorce more than once, but even if you've gone through it once or twice, anything that you do once or twice, you don't do really well right away. It takes a long time. And just like if we're learning to maybe ride a motorcycle, we're learning how to get healthy and use weights in the gym, you can figure all that stuff out. YouTube University, like you can do all that. You can fix the brakes on your car. Yeah. But if you want a faster track to trying to get through this in a healthier and less traumatic way, and actually have that life 2.0 that I just described, that can be absolutely glorious, you got to find somebody that can help you through that. And fortunately, there's guys like you that have dedicated their lives to doing this now, and it's becoming more and more common that we're getting more people. That's my goal. That's why we've been talking. You came on my show. I'm on your show. I want to talk to as many guys that are doing work in this space, because unfortunately, the divorce isn't going away. It's become commonplace and almost unfortunately socially accepted. And so the more people that we have like you and I in the space that are helping guys get through this, I feel like we can have an impact that actually helps families, particular children, right, see resiliency in their fathers that get through a difficult and challenging time and come out of this absolutely even better on the back end of it.
Yeah, good, dude. Let's look at, because we're going to the holidays, and I would say holidays is the ultimate numb moments for dads, especially if your kids are away. So this year, my kids aren't with me. And so I just remember the last patterns of years when it's not been there, and just what I've had to put in place to be able to identify what the numb was for me. Some years was weed gummies, good night,
right,
off in a galaxy far, far away. A couple of years it was just drinking and blew the night away and hope I don't forget. So I'd love to know and then I usually would tell myself, you know what, it's been hard, I deserve it. And like you, I wasn't addicted. I was addicted to being not addicted. So it wasn't like something I did all the time, but it was an escape that was this stress that I had, and it wasn't used into the man that I wanted to become. So when I throw that to you, Jude, what are some things that you had to go through in the numb process? And then what was it like getting out of that? So that, because this is it, man, from here to the end of the year, most guys are just going to cash out because that's how they're wired. We're wired, most guys, to numb out. And then we're mostly just also told that it's okay, man, you're under a lot of stress. So where do you land on that? What was your way of moving through that?
Yeah, well, I just want to acknowledge something you just said a little bit earlier, which is that we didn't have it together going through this, and me in particular. And I try to be very open and vulnerable with guys. There were times during this process I literally couldn't get out of bed. And I would just lay in bed for the good part of the day. There were times that during this process that I cry myself to sleep. And so just dads that are listening, this stuff is going on. It's happening to every guy that is going through divorce. Every dad that is going through divorce is experiencing the same things that you're going through. Because Anthony and I can show up and articulate about how to do it better now, doesn't mean that we weren't in that muck and that mire going through it. And so just have some grace with yourself, knowing that this is part of the process, and that's okay. That's okay. But you are going to get through it. God has made you strong enough to get through that. So there's no question in my mind, and I tell every guy this, is difficult and as challenging and as hopeless as you feel, you are strong enough to get through this for sure. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And now that I've acknowledged that, Anthony, I completely forgot what your question was.
My question was just in the numbing season and in those numbing moments.
Okay, back to the holidays.
Yeah, like what was it? Okay. What was it for you? Then what did it sound like? And then how did you ultimately like walk through that? Like, was there somebody that, linked up with you? Cause I know accountability for me is the gateway drug to freedom. So I just, once I started to do that, but I'm curious, your journey, how did that work out?
Well, holidays are brutal, right? Yeah. Because you've created this life around family. For me, everything is about relationships. So having all of these relationships fall away, which is a common thing during divorce, your friends that you thought were friends go away. You didn't, 90% of them, right? 95% of them. And that's not a reflection on you, because there's just no formalized way to go through divorce and nobody knows how to handle it. And it's more of a reflection on the other person and their ability to communicate or not communicate. And then the holidays come and you've got your identity wrapped around being a father and showing up and maybe playing Santa and so it's just so hard, and you want it. Literally, it's so much pain, man. It's so much pain. And when we get in pain, we don't want pain. We're wired to avoid pain just physiologically, right? We want to avoid pain. That's how our brains work. We get into fear, into fight, flight, or freeze. So because we want to avoid any of that pain. And so just know, guys, that you are in pain, and that's okay. But recognize that. You've got to recognize that, and all the things that Anthony and I talked about, which is if it's drugs or overworking or something else, you need to be in that pain. You need to recognize it and then build the tools that will help you to get through that, and then actually utilize that in order to create that better life post-divorce, because it can be just like when you get into the gym, that pain that you feel when you first start working out and your muscles are really sore and it hurts like hell. And sometimes you're walking like a penguin because you just did a legs day, right? But you're going to get stronger and you're going to look bigger, you're going to look better, and all the benefits from being healthier and looking better and being mentally and physically in better shape and showing up for your kid. Like all of that stuff is going to help. That's the same with your mental and your mental and emotional state. So just know the pain that you're in is a building block for you to that next level. You're literally leveling up, guys, going through this. And I know that's really hard to grasp when you're in the midst of it, but you are leveling up as you go through this divorce. You're being forced to level up whether you like it or not, right? Like for my circumstances, this level up was never in my plans, Anthony.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this is not, and if it was not how I planned to level up. I had a million other plans, but just know that you're leveling up to something that's bigger and greater. And so, that I think probably for me, so now hitting the question of what was kind of a realization for me, relationship is really important for me. Relationship with my children, relationship with others, it was with my family and with my wife. And so I went through a couple of relationships post-divorce. I said I did everything wrong, right? I started dating immediately, like during the divorce, had a couple of relationships post-divorce, which was absolutely insanity. Don't do that, guys. Wait, get through this, figure your stuff out. There's a right way and a wrong. There truly is a right way and a wrong way to go through the dating part of this post-divorce. Don't start dating right away. But I had a couple of failed ones, which anybody that's listening that's been in a relationship post-divorce, that failed one just post-divorce is almost equally, if not more, painful than the divorce itself. Yeah. And so it finally got to the point where I was like, well, there's a common denominator in this. The same woman keeps showing up in my life. Well, it must be me that's attracting this. So I need to stop. And that's when I started doing the work with the codependency and then started seeing some of these trends, how I was showing up, the relational dynamic that I was in, not just with my ex-wife, but with the women I dated post-divorce, with my children, in my work, because all this relational dynamic that might be spotlighted now with your soon-to-be ex or your ex is probably something that's cultivating in the rest of your life. So again, back to what you said, stripping away all of these distractions or addictions is really the biggest thing, and learning to let those emotions come up, and then what to do with those emotions is probably the number one thing you can do. And if that's during this holiday season, then do it during this holiday season. Cry if you need to cry, get angry if you need to get angry, sad if you all of those emotions, let them come up, deal with them, and then start building those skills.
Awesome, dude. I want to jump into the high conflict part because I know there's a lot of people that are in this space and going through it. And I think, again, in the holidays, everything is times 10 because of all the memories and everything that we've gone through. And so the one question I want to throw your way here on this is, what's the one mistake that silently defines a man as the bad guy in a high conflict divorce without him realizing it?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, fellas, it's me. I'm hitting pause on this episode for a second because I need to talk to you. Are you listening right now, feeling overwhelmed, stuck, worried about your kids, your finances, or just what comes next? I get it, and that's why I started this podcast. But I also know that listening is one thing, and having a personal advocate, a coach in your corner, is another. Listening gives you information. Coaching gives you a plan. It's where we work one-on-one to cut through the confusion, build your roadmap, and make sure you're not just surviving this divorce, but setting yourself up to thrive after it. I want you to walk into the new year with clarity and control. So As a thank you for being a loyal listener, I'm offering 25% off one-on-one coaching booked between now and the end of the year. This isn't just a discount. It's an investment in your future and your family. Don't wait for January 1st to feel lost again. Let's get you a plan now. Visit the coaching tab at thedivorcedadvocate.com and enter DADS25 at checkout. That's DADS25 at checkout on the coaching tab at thedivorcedadvocate.com. Claim your 25% discount and let's get to work. All right, let's get back to the show. So probably these days, based upon our society, is that he's too authoritarian, right? And this is something that is troublesome to me because I'm seeing this a lot in family law court, and they're starting to attempt to codify this, and it's just another attempt to diminish fatherhood as well as take kids away from fathers who provide something that is very, very critical in a kid's life. I think, Anthony, we can both agree that mothers and fathers both bring unique things to parenting children.
Yes.
I think anybody that believes in God's design, anybody that rationally has parented with a woman knows that there are things that they do much better with kids than we do. And that's also the same thing with dads. There are things that we bring and we provide to being a parent, being a father that mothers can't and nobody else can provide to children. And so I think fatherhood in general has been diminished, and oftentimes fatherhood is now with this authoritarian versus authoritative kind of mindset. It's okay for you to provide structure, to provide discipline, to provide direction to your kids. That's what we do. The way that I've heard it described is men think about family and their children in the future. Women think about family and their children in the present, right? They're worried and concerned about their well-being right now. We're worried about what's going to happen to them when they're 18 and 19 and 20. Are they going to be able to be healthy, functioning adults, right? That's the masculine mindset. And so the biggest thing I would say to guys is be a dad. Yeah. That's okay. You can still be a dad. Don't be afraid of the family law court, although you should be wary of the family law court and attorneys and what's going on in the process. But you can mitigate some of that by getting involved in your program, in my community, with other dads that have gone through it, right? Not just getting an attorney. There's way more that goes into divorce. And this is one of those little nuances when you show up in court and they're painting you as a bad dad because you disciplined your kids and you're losing parenting time because of it. That's a huge, huge problem because that has a direct impact to the future of your children if you are not involved in your kids' lives at least a certain part of the time. So I would say just be wary of that and pay attention to that the narratives that start to happen during divorce, especially if you're with somebody that has some mental, emotional issues. And I'll just end on this. Okay. Here's the red flag, Anthony.
Yes.
Yeah. Your wife, soon to be ex, does not 100% encourage your children and your relationship, then there's a significant mental, emotional issue going on. Unless, of course, there's some kind of significant physical abuse that's happening. But I know if they're listening to this podcast or anything else, that's not happening.
Yeah, good. You know what? As you were saying that, Jude, I want to jump into this back to the future moment for you because you were in that situation, and we know a lot of dads are in there. The question I have for you, Jude, is what advice would you have given yourself now, back then, about this high conflict situation? What would you have said to yourself then?
What I said in the beginning, which is you're strong enough to get through this.
Yeah. Would you have done anything different?
Oh, yeah, like a ton of things different.
What are like the top three that you would have done different?
Well, the top thing I would have done is I would have sought out help.
Okay.
I would have sought out help. I literally had one friend going through this process, and it's great to have a friend, but friends have their own issues, their own lens and through which they look at things. And so a lot of his advice was horrible.
Sure.
So just keep that in mind. Friends and family's advice is okay, but a lot of times it can just be horrible and actually more damaging. What I would have liked somebody to say is, okay, stop, don't hire an attorney first. Let's look at this from a holistic approach and figure out what you've got going on. You've got especially in high conflict. If you've got high conflict going on, there are a lot of things that you need to be wary about, and you are going to probably need to fight for. And that was the other thing is, like, I wanted to be the nice guy. I wanted to settle this, right? I didn't want this to be high conflict, but as you know, it only takes one person to have conflict, right? And sometimes in this process, you're literally like negotiating with the terrorists. So they want you dead and you want to get through things in a nice way. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So there's things that are going to have to change. So find somebody that can help you. Again, wrapping back to what we talked about, get involved in a community or get some support, whether that's it could be a divorce group, it can be a divorce church group, it can be a 12-step group, it can just be a men's group. Like, you'd be surprised. I talk to clients all the time. Hey, be vulnerable, open up about your divorce. And they start doing it. And guys are like, yeah, man, like, I experienced that. Let me tell you about this. And then there becomes this camaraderie around being able to share that stuff and open up about that stuff. And then it's almost like I said, when I sat in that first meeting, a weight just like falls off your shoulders.
Yeah. Jude, let me throw this at you. As you were talking, I think this could be a great moment, because I think a lot of dads are listening, or however they're watching this scenario, and they're trying to imagine what the heck this is supposed to look like. I think it'd be great, Jude, because I know you mentioned like what you do and the divorced advocate. Can you walk us through a scenario that you've had with a client, without using their names or anything, of what they were going through and they came to you? This was some of the situations. And then how did you navigate that with them for some wins? Because I also think too, you and I both talked about this, about letting dads know that there are wins and not everybody is dying and burning on the ground, that there's actually success stories. There's actually, you and I, again, like I said before, we had a few of these that we were talking about, just giving dads faith and hope of like, holy smokes, what does this actually look like? They come to you, Jude, and you start to navigate the situation with them. Like you'd said, maybe you have something with the attorney side, or maybe something else, but what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, well, talking to thousands of guys over the years and working with hundreds of them in going through this process, it's really important to create a vision and direction, right? There's some basic coaching principles that you and I both follow. One of those is creating the vision that you want post-divorce. Now, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen exactly how you envision it, but while you're in this chaos, you need to be creating that vision. So that's one of the things that in working with guys, particularly in one-on-one, that we start to do. And then from there, you work backwards in creating the steps that you want in doing that. And then in that, you're building your skills, you're designing the environment to do it, like all of that stuff that coaches take you through, whether it's a divorce coach or an exercise coach or any, they're all going to follow these basic principles and these steps. And so with guys, like I've had guys that have been in very, very high conflict. And one I'm thinking about was so high conflict, ended up in jail, wasn't seeing his kid at all, kid completely taken away through no fault of his own, false allegations, infidelity, like you couldn't imagine. And some of this stuff, like I saw coming and we were talking about, and there were red flags, and it was literally like watching a train wreck just go through. Well, at this point, they've now gone through a divorce, and they've actually reconciled, and they're parenting together, and they're back together. Wow. So, I mean, that is like the ultimate awesome success story, like having gone through that and then like figuring out how to reconcile and do that. Absolutely unbelievable and amazing. So, but it all starts with that vision and direction. And you and I have talked about that. You've got to have that, and as guys, we innately have that, unless it's been kind of conditioned out of us.
Yeah.
And we kind of go, and that's kind of what happened to me. I became very passive, right?
Yeah.
Kind of the mindset of happy wife, happy life, which is just a horrible. We're meant to be leaders. We're meant to have a purpose. We're meant to have direction, and that can be your family, that can be your job, it can be a combination, it can be something, but we've got to have that in our lives. It's what women want. It's what women need in a relation. It's what our kiddos need to see from us. And it doesn't mean it has to be in one set traditional way. Like, that's the beautiful thing about society now. Things are changing. It's very different. It's very diverse, right? It's not just the traditional ward cleaver, how it used to be. It can be very different. And so, but there's still some of these basic things, these basic mindsets that we have. And it's innately with us. A lot of times when we're coaching guys, Anthony, we're just helping them uncover it and regain it and come back to it.
Yeah. Let's talk to the guy that is, because I think part of the genius that you do is, like you said before, about navigating the first person that you hire isn't necessarily, when you're going through divorce, isn't necessarily your lawyer. And I like to unpack that a little bit, Jude, because I think most of the conversations that we have is that step one is, attorney or whatever feedback you're getting. I know for me, that was the only thing that I knew what to do. Let's walk some of these folks down the road of when people come to you in that situation. What would that look like for you? What would you be walking them through?
Yeah. Great question. I don't know if there's any genius in what I do.
Well, I've never heard that before. I thought it was great, man.
Well, other than just being in the muck and going, there's got to be a better way, and then starting to try to figure out a better way through helping guys. But so the family law system, I liken it. You know how the auto industry has created this mindset around you've got to get your oil changed every 3 months or 3,000 miles, right? You ask anybody who has a car, when you get your 3 months, 3,000 miles, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with divorce and attorneys. Attorneys have created the system. They adjudicate the system, right? They're the judges and the magistrates are the one. So they've created this. Well, you've got to have an attorney. You got to talk to an attorney. And and this isn't to badmouth any attorneys. They've created a brilliant system for themselves, right? But here's the thing: it's not based on justice. It's based on efficiency. And so, if it's based on efficiency, and you're in it thinking that you're going to get justice, this was a huge thing. I was just like, okay, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to be a good boy. I'm going to do everything right. And I got absolutely hammered in court. Absolutely. 100% hammered because I had the complete wrong.
And what state were you in?
In Colorado.
Okay.
And so it's like going to a baseball game and playing football. Like, you're playing the wrong game, and then you don't have success. But the problem is you don't go home after this game and just like, oh, that's too bad I lost. Like, this has an impact on you going for decades. Like, depending on how old your kids are, it has an impact on you. And so that's why I say going and hiring a divorced attorney first is not the best thing. Now, you're gonna need an attorney more times than not. You can get through it without it if it's amicable and both people don't have any mental emotion issues or personality disorder. You can get through it. And actually, Anthony, like 90+% of divorces are settled outside of court.
Sure.
So we only hear about, and probably in our world, we are more exposed to the high conflict stuff because that's when you're showing up with, you're in critical condition, right? Like,
more money, more problems.
Yeah. You need really, really a lot of help.
Yeah.
But you don't want to hire an attorney first because the system, like I said, is set up for justice. It's set up for efficiency. And then through that, the attorneys they want to get you through the legal system. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's not how you get through it, not what the result is post-divorce, but just get you through it. And they feel like once you're separated, once it's done, that's good. Yeah. But that does not work because then post-divorce, there's potentially all kinds of problems you need to sort out. You're going to be in relation with this person. That's where it's different with dads, and why it's so critical for dads, and why I decided to dedicate my life to focusing on just dads. There is a huge, huge impact that is happening by you going through this. And that impact is on your kids, right? And I described it because of my parents and my parents' parents. There's this generational thing that can happen if you don't pay attention to it. And so when I'm working with dads, I want them to create a team of people that are going to help them through this process. Just like when you're on, let's say, a football team, you've got a team of players that have very specific duties. On offense, the quarterback's going to maybe be the mastermind and coordinating everything. A running back's going to be doing something very specific, a wide receiver, et cetera. You're going to have all of those, but you're the coach of your divorce team. Yeah. So you're going to be the one that is creating the direction you want to go, right? Based upon working with Anthony or Jude and creating that vision of what you want, determining how you want to get there, and then calling the plays. That doesn't mean that you might not have to adjust things, make changes, have a new game plan, etc. But you're going to do that. You're going to do that with your divorce attorney, who might be the quarterback, really important, but you're going to have your maybe certified divorce financial analyst, your certified divorce lender, your certified divorce real estate agent, your therapist or counselor, CPA. Like, all of these people are going to play a huge part. And that's what happens. We get an attorney, and I did this too, right? Yeah. I did this and just trusted my attorney. And I look back and I can tell you all the places where my attorney gave me advice that I should have done something different with. Sure. And that's what I want, guys. And that's not saying that he was just trying to get through the process as efficient as possible. But they don't know a ton of stuff, Anthony. Attorneys do not know a ton of stuff about the financials, about the psychology going through it, dealing with somebody that might have just a personality. Like, they know how to get through the legal process. That's great. You need so much more than that, guys.
You mentioned a whole legal team, and when I hear that, and if I'm listening to this podcast, that sounds really expensive to me. So I know what you do with people, and I would like for you to maybe break that down, and so our listeners can hear actually how much it ends up saving them rather than the cost. Like, if there's something that comes to mind for you where a guy comes on and you bring in a few different people and it ends up on the front side or on the back side, either way, to be a substantial difference in price. Because I think when guys hear divorce, they hear cost, price, too much, I'm not that guy. And I know from, sitting with you, Jude, that you have a system in place that kind of answers all those questions. So I'm just curious, like, tell us, like, maybe some wins on there for some guys so they can hear and be like, oh, wow, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'll tell you one right now that a lot of people don't know about. It's called collaborative divorce. And if you have somebody that you can actually talk with, that is amicable, that does want to compromise and knows that there's going to have to be compromise through this, because it's just simple. Your environment's going to change, your lifestyle is going to change, finances are going to change. That's a simple math problem. One house into two. So that's a real easy. If you're with somebody that can look at that and say, okay, yeah, I understand that, then collaborative divorce is something that people don't know about, where you actually go through this process with your individual attorneys and you talk about this, and you're all working towards the best outcome for each of you individually, because you both need to have a life that sustains you post-divorce, but is also going to be good for you financially, but is also going to be good for the kids. So you literally sit down and you sit with a coach like myself and talk about what you want post-divorce. You sit with a financial neutral talking about the finances and how you split stuff up. And then you get all the 6, 8, 10, however many people are in a room,
and you collaborate on what the divorce is. And so that's something like I've got a guy in the community right now that's doing that, and we're talking about that. I've got another client that's an option that he's thinking about that he wants to bring to his wife to do that, and that can save you literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. My divorce cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was insane. Yours did too. There's guys in the community that have spent millions of dollars.
Oh yeah.
Way more than that. If you're in some of the coast, when some of the big cities, and you get in a high conflict and you have high income, there's guys that have spent millions and millions of dollars on this, and it can be easier. Now, again, back to if you're negotiating with a terrorist, then they don't want to settle. They don't want to collaborate. They don't want to come to compromise. They don't want to do any of this. Then, guys, you're just going to have to spend the money on it. And that's where it's really hard sometimes with guys, because that come in because, it's stupid to spend money on this stuff. It shouldn't be that way. But you have to understand, guys, if you're dealing with somebody that has some kind of mental, emotional issue, you're never, ever going to be able to convince them or change their mind on what they want. And we're not going to go into all the psychology around that right now. There is a lot of psychology. There's a playbook that actually happens with these people that if you are with a coach or somebody that can help you mitigate some of that, it will literally save you hundreds of thousands of dollars by not getting arrested or not getting a false allegation or something else that's going on. So to back to your question, to put a dollar amount on it, it can be literally at the low end, I would say it could save you tens of thousands of dollars. On the high end, it could be millions plus. Business owners I've dealt with and dealing with in uncoupling that and properties and all of that, not to mention the tax consequences if you don't do it the right way, et cetera. It could be millions of dollars that you can save. And look, man, we're talking about spending thousands of dollars to save tens or millions of dollars, right? In your program, in my program, and I think we can safely say that none of us that are doing this are, man, like, hey, if somebody wants to donate $1 million, somebody wants to spend some millions on the program and get involved, that's great. But none of us are looking to do this to make millions of dollars, right? We're on the social media sharing these insights, not because we like to look at ourselves, because God knows, like, you guys are looking at me now. I'm nothing to look at, right? Like, we're doing this to really try to save people.
You look great, Jude.
And guys, thanks, man. Well, I tried a little bit. I tried more for your podcast than I did for mine. But
good.
We're trying to save, lives here, people's lives, men's lives, children's lives. We're trying to make them better. And this is really a labor of love, but it can help. It can save you so much.
Yeah, it's good. I always say too, with guys that come in and, a lot of times they're always saying, well, I don't know if I can, pay for the attorney and this and that. And I said, well, look, your enemy, the lady that you're going up against, she's going to have all the firepower in the world. And if you don't get this right, the next decade, you're going to pay for it. So Grant, I agree with you. Like, that's why I think a lot of the stuff that you do is super helpful for guys, because it helps navigate some of those questions and, starts where they're at in their funding and how to get stuff, funded right. You can say something on that? Yeah,
no, I was just going to say, let me tell you what happens if you don't do it, because my life was a decade of going back and having to stay in court. Nonstop. It was 7 different attorneys, hundreds of thousands, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars in court. It was depositions. It was two or three CFI investigations. It was nonstop police officers doing welfare, quote unquote, welfare checks at my house. It was my ex calling where we're vacationing in the hotels, attempting to getting me fired from my job. Like, oh, dude, that's just off the top of my head. If I had some time to write a list, it's absolutely insane, the stuff. And then, like, you're just trying to live a life, right? You just want to have you just want to have kids. You want to enjoy your kids, maybe get another romantic relationship that's healthy, enjoy life. Maybe, I know you like motorcycles. I like motorcycles. Maybe have a bike, do some, like, we just want to have a good life, but you're stuck in this nightmare of post-divorce court with somebody that you're parallel parenting with, and your kids might be getting alienated. Like, fortunately for me, that didn't happen, but guys show up all the time. I haven't seen my kids in a year or 2 years. And what do I do? And how do I get them back? And this and that. Like, we can avoid a lot of that in going through the process in a much healthier and less traumatic way.
Yeah, it's good, dude. I want you to maybe answer this question for the dad who has trouble spending money, investing in himself. What would you tell that guy in these scenarios?
I don't know, Anthony. I don't know that there's that goes to maybe some roots of your money mindset, but you've got to spend money in order to do something that you've never done before. And it's so, I guess the analogy that I'll use sometimes is if you're going to a doctor and let's say you have, God forbid, some very significant health issue, and you're needing a surgery that is literally going to save your life. Are you going to say, well, what's the cost on that? And can I shop that? At least the people that I've ever, thank God I've never had to deal with that with my family, but the guys that I've ever talked to and women that I've ever talked, that's never been one of the things that they said. I went to California to find the top person to save my life. Yeah. And they didn't think about, they said, the cost of it. They figured there's no question about that. And so, maybe wrapping back to what you said in the beginning, one of the first things you got to ask yourself is, like, this is going to have a huge impact on you and your children in the next 2 decades of your life. Why are you going to not spend a few $1,000s on something that can have a huge impact, particularly on your children? I'm going to say it over and over again, because when we're doing the work with you, that is going to reflect directly on your relationship with your kids, how you get through this, and what your life is post-divorce with your kids. And that is going to determine the relationships that your children have when they're healthy and functioning adults, hopefully healthy and functioning adults. If you don't, and you don't spend the thousands of dollars and you muddle through this, and like a lot of this stuff I muddle through, and I say to my daughters now, look, girls, like, this is the life that I never designed. I never thought this was going to be. I've made lots of mistakes, but I will be here for you through the rest of your life, through your adult relationships, to help you through it, because I know that it's going to have an impact. Guys, this is going to have an impact on them in their adult life. It can be a positive, and trust me, it can be a positive. I've got stories about my daughters that I can say, wow, I would have never designed the lesson that they learned because of my divorce or how I showed up, et cetera. Yeah. But they've learned a lesson that is going to be so good for them in their adult life that is amazing because of this process.
Good, dude. Yeah, I love just hearing that. I think more and more dads forget about, and most have never invested in themselves except for in college, and now they're at this place. So I want to give you a couple questions here.
Let's talk about that for a quick second, right?
Sure.
Because this is hard, especially if guys probably that are listening, and maybe you find this that are involved in your community, my community, have never heard that message of value that they bring, and why it's so important for them to invest in themselves. And this was me too, right? Like, I was going to be super dad. I was going to be sacrificing all this stuff, and maybe even more so, maybe some of the Christian men in the audience that are listening too, that are self-sacrificial, which is a good thing. But you have to invest in yourself to be able to do the rest of that, to be able to show up and to have the skills to be able to be there for your children, to learn to communicate with your children, to mitigate conflict, which is always going to happen in our lives. Like, we're never going to not have conflicts in our life. Like, that is part of showing up we share the same faith. Showing up in a Christian way, in a Christ-like manner, is you are actually going to have probably more conflict. Yeah. And so avoiding that is not going to help. So you need to learn, you need to invest in yourself to learn the skills to be able to deal with this. This is just one conflict. It might be a big one, and it is a big one, but there's going to be many, many more. So invest in yourself. And by investing in yourself, it has a cascading effect on everybody else in your life. And again, particularly your children. Like, we're focused on children, but it's going to have an impact everywhere else that you show up if you invest and you grow and you learn and level up, like I said before.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's doing hard things, and those are hard things to hear. I got a couple questions, and we'll start to land this plane and get these guys going. One thing I just want to note, that a lot of guys that listen to this, they want to do something, they want to help. And I always say this, like, guys, the easiest thing you can do for not only my podcast or even Jude's podcast, The Divorced Advocate, is to go on there, subscribe, leave a review, because it makes the algorithm go crazy like your ex. And it's literally sends the podcast to divorced dads. And it's that simple. Just subscribe, just leave a review, be like, yo, that was helpful. This was good. This was that, whatever it might be. Just something simple. And it rockets this stuff out on mine and on Jude's as well. So I just want to say that, and let me land this thing with a couple questions, because I think there's some dads that would then look at this and be like, all right, like, the question would be this. Jude, you've seen hundreds of guys go through this. And I would pose it like this. What separates the dads who rebuild faster than the ones who stay bitter after a decade or so, or even less? What's the difference?
Asking for help.
Asking for help.
Asking for help. Yeah, which is just not a message. Man, if I could just, if there's one thing that I want guys to take away from today, ask for help. It's not a message that I grew up with. It's not a message we get from in manhood a lot, et cetera. But asking for help is a sign of strength. It is not a sign of weakness. Get the help. It'll be, man, it's the fastest thing to leveling up your game. And so, just so guys know, I have a coach too. Like, so I have a coach too. I practice what I preach. I've gotten to a point with our community where it was like, man, what you said earlier, like, we've got to get this message out. And I feel like I'm doing a disservice, right? So that service thing for me, I'm like, I am doing a disservice to all the dads out there that are not getting my message. I need to figure out how to take this community to the next level. So I was like, I got to go invest. I got to go find somebody that can help me do that. I invest in a business coach, and I work with a business coach that's helping me to do this so that we can get this out. So same thing, going and asking for help. Like, a lot of stuff I did for myself, and I've done stuff to some extent, but I know I need help to get to that next level. Ask for help. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, it's great, Jude, because I think what you and I have both seen, and I know for myself and in the different stratospheres of guys, especially as you get into, 7, 8, 9 figures, what I've learned with those guys is that they will trade money for time, and they will spend whatever they need to spend to learn and cut the time on what they need to learn to be able to have that growth, because they know that they don't get more time. And so if they can trade the money for time, you can do it faster. You can get there quicker. Your mind can get renovated. Your stuff with your dads and your kids and your cash flow and all those things. You can do that faster. Why wouldn't you, right? And so that's the friction that a lot of dads have, is being able to see through that and saying, wow, that's actually what the successful people do. All the people that we follow, we read about, that's how they cut the time. And so saying that
every dad listening, you can make more money. Yeah. I guarantee you can you're designed to make money. So if it's a financial thing, you can make more money. You and I talked about on our podcast, like, and I want you to know, wherever you're at, like, we both talked about, like, getting to a low point and drive. Like, I had to be like driving rideshare to just make ends meet at one point during this. You can always make money no matter where you're at. So if that's you right now and you just feel like I'm at the bottom, you can and you will, going back to you are strong enough, you can and you will be able to make more money. So just trust in that abundance mindset that you are designed to, you can and you will.
Yeah. Jude, when you just said that, it reminds me, there's a guy that I'm a current client. We've been talking about the people he hangs out with, and he asked me a few questions about it. And it was basically about, do I hang out with these types of people that are kind of average, middle of the road? Do I stay away? Like, what do I do with people? And the picture that I got when he was asking me that story was a picture. There's obviously the easy one is, a bad apple spoils the rest of the apples, right? The other side of the coin is when you begin to take championship players and you put them on the same team. Championship players don't want to play with average players. If you've read Good to Great and those types of things and those philosophies, and if you followed Apple and Steve Jobs, you'll know that A players do not want to play with B players. And so when you're looking for who do you hang out with, find for example, your community, find the community that those guys are in that have an abundance and overflow mindset, and that will become your standard operating procedure. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's the cliche of you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with, right? So, and then also the people say, well, if you hang out with 4 people who are alcoholics, you're going to become the 5th people the 5th person that's an alcoholic. There's something to be said about the environment, and this is not to say like you got to go change your whole friends and like go away from everybody. Just if you start to do the work and you continue and you start to level up, those people are going to come into your world, right? Like God's going to create the people and the opportunities. You just need to be aware. And then the people that aren't comfortable with it anymore are going to fall away. And so that it doesn't become this whole big tough conversations or anything. You're just leveling your life up. You're on a path that is different, and you're going to follow that path. You're going to meet other people that are on that path, and it's going to go to some amazing places that you might intend, but other places other diversions off of that path that you're going to go, oh my God, I never ever could have imagined my life going in this direction. And it is so freaking amazing.
Love it. Jude, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, but it's the end of the year, and I like to leave guys with either one or two things. I like to leave them with a challenge, or I like to leave them with a couple questions that force them to take what we've heard and do a little bit of homework on themselves. So I'll leave it up to you. Like, do you feel like there's sometimes it's a 24-hour challenge or a 72-hour challenge or a week challenge or a 5 challenge? If there's something come to mind for you, a challenge or a couple questions you could leave these guys with today, what would you like that to be?
So when coaching guys, we really try to start maybe with something that is one small movement in a direction down that road that I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
So my challenge would be
do one you got a challenge. Thing. Okay, good.
Yeah. Do one thing today or tomorrow that will move you towards that direction.
Okay.
Right. So if it's, I want to be more healthy, then it could be as simple as going for a walk. Go for a walk for 15 minutes or maybe even chunk it down less. It's just, if you know that you need to create the time to go for a walk, and that's going to have to be in the morning, just get up 15 minutes earlier tomorrow and then start doing that for 21 days so that you can get up that 15 minutes earlier for 21 days. And then after the 21 days, then go out for the walk. Or maybe it's not, you're going to get out of bed, then start getting out of bed for 21 days, at that time, instead of just waking up. Like, do one thing that is going to help you. Now, if you can jump right to the walk, go right to the walk. Get up every day for 21 days. Like they say, 21 days, it creates like more of a mindset and more of a habit mindset around it. After 60 days, it becomes a lifestyle change. So you'd be really surprised, guys, how quickly you can rewire your brain to want to do this and create a lifestyle that happens like this. So it'll start like that, and you'll just keep adding things on and adding things on. And this whole philosophy, you change the trajectory of a plane by just 1 degree over a period of distance or time, it's going to be a huge change, of course. So just start with one thing this holiday season, whatever it might be. Maybe it's you're gonna just stop one night of drinking. Okay, maybe you're stuck in an addiction, but you're going to stop and you're going to reduce it by 1 drink or 1 day or something. Just do one thing that gets you on that road towards that different life.
Thank you, Jude. I was going to throw something else, but I just feel like that was such a good closing thought for guys to hear and to resonate with and to do something. Again, the Divorced Advocate, all the stuff is in there. You guys need to go to it. I'll throw it to you, Jude. What's the best way for the community to find where you're at and what's going on?
Yes, we have everything housed at thedivorcedadvocate.com. You can check out everything that we've got from the podcast. We've got 280 some podcast episodes, so you can plow through all of those, and we've got experts like you that come on and all kinds of other guys that provide support. We've got a blog. We've got a membership site that gives you some additional resources. We've got an app there as well with 50 plus self-help courses. And then we've got individual coaching. Right now, Anthony, between now and the end of the year, we started a Black Friday to the end of the year. We're doing a 25% off of individual coaching. So that thousands even gets reduced even less. What's like my business coach is like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah man, like I got to do this. Like this is the time between now and the end of the year where people are planning and thinking about stuff. This is the time I need to give guys an opportunity to get involved. So check it out at thedivorcedadvocate.com. And I want to reiterate what you said, which is just leave, if you found some value today and what we shared, just leave a comment. Like it costs you no money, and give it a star rating. And we need to get this message out to so many more dads. And that's all you got to do. It won't cost you any money. It's going to cost you literally 30 seconds. Yeah. You have no idea the benefit that it gives Anthony or I. And thanks for having me on, man. And bless you for the work that you do. I'm so glad we connected. And man, let's just keep this going and keep helping people.
Well, dude, thanks, Jude, for being here. Divorced Dad, the rebuild, and this is what we do each and every week. So those of you listening, thank you for listening. If you can drop a comment and a sub, that's awesome. If you get to the Divorced Advocate, do something, take action on everything that Jude's got going on. And I pray for you guys. I love you guys, and I can't wait to see you guys on the next one. God bless you.
To hear the rest of this episode and access the corresponding resources, visit thedivorcedadvocate.com and become a member of our community. It's free to join and will provide you with the resources you deserve as a divorced or divorcing dad. Thank you for listening. God bless, and I'll talk with you next week.